It's been a year since I've showed you guys my library, and there have been a lot of changes and a lot of additions. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, it's been a hot minute since I have kind of showed you guys my whole library, and I've had a lot of changes. I've added about 4 or 5 shelves since I did this library tour video a year ago, and I've also probably added a couple hundred books. So there are lots of changes. I've done unhauls, I've done hauls, I've rearranged, so I felt like it was time to update you guys. Now, I do own 14 bookshelves. Most of them are the standard 3-shelf ones that are pretty short. I do have a big tall one, and then I have 2 longer short ones, I guess, but I have a lot of books, so they are double stacked on some shelves. They are stacked on the tops of some shelves, so there's a lot of books to show you guys today. My count as of this afternoon is 1,402 books, and there are a couple books that I don't really count towards that, such as some of my textbooks or some of my reference books, but that is counting majority of the books, manga, reference books in my library room. So there are a lot of books to go over. This will be a long video. I will try not to drag things out. It's going to be really just showing you guys. Now, to preface, again, I have a lot of books. Number 2, I have a lot of shelves. Number 3, this entire room is books, minus my tiny little office corner and my boyfriend's tiny little gaming corner. It's all books, so it's gonna be a lot. And I divide my library by genre. I'm a big mood reader. I just prefer it that way. I like to be able to say I'm in the mood for horror and go to my horror. I like to, you know, just have my genres separated for the things that I like. Now, one of my new shelves I'm very excited about. I can actually put books on double sides, and you can see both sides, and I'm able to put all of my nonfiction reference books right next to my office, which is really, really convenient for when I'm doing work stuff. Love that. But we're gonna go ahead and get started, and just bear with me, and I hope you guys enjoy. I love videos like this. I love seeing what people own, how they organize, how they decorate. I personally love my shelves. I think they're very aesthetically pleasing, so I hope you guys enjoy. If you do, give it a like. If you guys stick through to the end, leave a comment. I love when you guys comment, and let's talk about some of these books. That being said, I always ramble, so we're gonna go ahead and get this video started. I'm gonna do a quick overview of my whole library, and then we'll go shelf by shelf and show you guys what I have. Alright, so to start off this video, I'm going to start with my smaller portion of my library. I have about 5 shelves on this half of the room. This is my boyfriend's gaming corner, and then, like I said, just 5 shelves. These are the genres I don't really read as often, or I was able to expand my horror. Those of you that have seen or watched my last library video, I guess, I had all my horror books shoved onto 1.5 shelves. I now have a full 2 shelves of just horror books, and then I actually was able to split my thriller and mysteries, so this gave me a lot more room. And then I actually have gappage on my other 2 shelves because they're genres I just don't read very often. So let's go ahead and show you guys what's over here. Alright, so I'm standing in where like my boyfriend games, and this is kind of what's going on here. There's the whole rest of the library. My dog is sleeping in this little cube thing, and we have fans because I do not have AC up here, but we have 2 shelves here, and then I have 3 shelves here. So I'm going to start on this side. I first have all of my Fairy Tale and Adventures of Gummy Bear Funko Pops. I am really trying to declutter with the pop figures, but these are some that I will never get rid of. I do love this show, and I love Fairy Tail. These are like 4 of my favorite characters ever, so this will be staying. Now, we're gonna start on the bottom of this shelf. On the very bottom, I have my Ellen Hopkins books, and then I just have a couple contemporary books, and then if we move up, I also have more contemporary fiction. You will see my cats in these videos. He is a love bug and he wants to be in the way always. But I do have my more like contemporary or general fiction. I just have this book facing out because I am a marine scientist. I just love the cover. And then I do have my Clive Cussler books. These could be considered mysteries, or I just consider them general fiction because that's how they usually have them in my used bookstore. And then of course my wine glass with my shark, which I probably will never drink out of because I just think it's aesthetically pleasing, but I don't think that would be fun to wash and clean. Moving up, I have historical fiction. Now, this guy likes to fall down a lot and the dogs will try to play with him, but I do have just a couple here. I don't read historical fiction all the time, so it's really just a small section. Tons of room to add more if I were to be a historical romance girly. But yeah, this whole shelf is just general fiction, contemporary, and some historical fiction. Moving over, we'll start with the top. These are the Outlander books by Diana Gabaldon. These are considered romance or historical fiction, so I like that they kind of tie my historical fiction into my romance. These are some of my older romance books. Joanna Lindsey, I have another book and a Danielle Steele book, so these are just older. As you can see, there's tons of room here. I do not read romance like very often. Down below is also more romance, just some random books. My favorite series, my 10th anniversary edition of After, literally just some more random romance. Tons of room though. And then the bottom is also romance, so I just have some fun colored ones. I have this duology here, love the covers for, and then these are some of my spicy books. I have gotten rid of a lot of them because I am just not a spicy romance girly anymore. I just think a lot of the plots are very similar and I'm just kind of over it. So this shelf is actually all romance, which if you guys have stuck with me for the last year of my channel would know I don't read a lot of romance. So the fact that I even have a whole shelf dedicated to romance now is crazy. Alright, moving to the 3 shelves on this side. We'll start with the bottom down here. First, I have some mystery. Now, some of these could be considered thrillers, I know, but I just kind of go off of what I think they would be. So I have some more mysteries, and then they transition into a couple thrillers. I, of course, have Georgie. Love him. Would love to have a Pennywise one instead, but this is who I have for now. I do have the Da Vinci Code series by Dan Brown. These are just more mysteries, more like chiller books, I guess. I haven't really read any of these, I don't think, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, that is what is down here. Moving to the shelf above, these are all thrillers. I do have some stacked here that I recently got. And then I do have more behind. I have a couple stacked on top, but these are more thrillers. I have read a couple of these ones. It seems like most of the thrillers I've read in the past have been on my Kindle, and I'm really trying to get out of that this year, so hopefully more of these will be read by the end of the year. Now, moving up to the last shelf, I have my Riley Sager books, and those of you that have read Riley Sager know he is a thriller writer, but he does sometimes cross the boundary into horror. So right here marks my transition into horror books, and then I have some hardcover horror books that go with that. But this just cute little statue thing with my cat's old, tag. And then up top is just, a little picture collage of my boyfriend and I, and then just some Funko Pops. If we move over, though, I have some really cool seashells and fossils, some pretty rocks and crystals. This was a plant my cat kept knocking over and has now destroyed, so it's just an empty pot that I'm too lazy to take care of. But, moving on to more horror. I'm so excited. I say a lot I don't like Stephen King. I do own quite a bit of Stephen King because I do want to give him a chance, and there are a couple, you know, like It, I'm obsessed with Pennywise, so I feel like I have to read it at some point. I do have a couple popular series. I did put Joe Hill and Peter Straub up here. Joe Hill is Stephen King's son, for those of you that don't know. So yeah, there's just some here. Moving down, I have some more books, obviously, just some cute little skeletons. I just got this today. This is a book I have been wanting to read for years. Every time I download it on my Kindle, I end up canceling my Kindle Unlimited subscription, not having read it yet. So I actually found it physically used at a bookstore, and I screamed in the middle of the store. I was very excited. But behind that, I have some mass market horrors, a lot of John Saul. He is an author my mom has recommended, so I'm very excited to actually read some of his stuff. Seems like he likes to write a lot of children horror, so I definitely feel like I need to read that before I were to think about kids, because I don't think I'd want to read kid horrors after having kids. I do have some Grady Hendrix, a couple other random ones here. Moving down on the shelf, I have some more horror. Nothing really to mention here. I do love this cover. It's a fish. It's just really cool, and I did love this book. So that is Facing Out. Other than that, I just have some books here. Nothing, like I said again, to really point out or anything like that. A lot of these are actually new. I just recently hauled. So that completes my first full horror shelf. So happy. And then we have a second horror shelf, so let's get over there. Starting at the top, I have my Darcy Coates collection. Now, there has been one book by her I really did not like, and I did unhaul, but for the most part, I have kept all of her books, or I own all her books. I have not read every single one. I definitely plan on it at some point, but I love that I do own most of her books. I know she has a couple new releases I haven't read or hauled yet, so I definitely do want to look for those in the future. But that is my Darcy Coates shelf. Down below, these are just some random books. I have my Eric LaRocca section right here. I love him. I say that. I did finally finish At Dark I Become Loathsome, and I absolutely hated it. Crazy to think that I did not like one of his books, but I do have a couple here that I still need to read by him. One of my favorite books, Dead Inside by Chandler Morrison. Amazing book. Just a couple other randoms. I have my T. Kingfisher series. These are really some books that are just really popular that I've enjoyed or I still need to get to that are here. Moving down, this is my Dean Koontz and C.G. Drews shelf. So I do own Don't Let the Forest In. I've read it. I loved it. I own their other two books, Hazelthorne and You Did Nothing Wrong is their newest book. Now behind that is all Dean Koontz. Every time I see a Dean Koontz book, I immediately buy it now. I've read 3 or 4 of his books and I've loved them. So I do have quite a few stuffed back here. There's some more for you guys. I loved Demon Seed. That was a really good book, very like AI heavy, which is very prevalent right now, so I thought it was spooky. Bad Weather Friend is also phenomenal. For those of you that have not read a Dean Koontz book, that is his newest and I definitely recommend it. But this is just my Dean Koontz horror shelf. He has a couple thrillers that are with my thriller section, but yeah. And moving down to the bottom of my horror shelf, these are more hardcovers. Some of these are more popular that I need to get to, but yeah, there's not really much else to say here. I am super excited to still read this, You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. I've heard amazing things about it. It has stunning sprayed edges, so I do need to get to that. And also there is wiggle room here for if I ever buy more horror books, which I have a bad habit of doing, so definitely will be. Now moving away from my horror books, I have this new shelf. This is kind of a dividing shelf. There's books on both sides. I love it because it kind of separates my office from my boyfriend's section, so I do really enjoy this. Up top I just have my filming equipment, some charging cords, my TBR jar. These are library books I have checked out currently. These are 2 books I am currently in the middle of. May potentially be DNFing one of them. We'll see. And then this is just my laptop, my iPad, and then a book that needs to go in the attic. But on this side of the shelf, I have a lot of my classics and my poetry. So these are my beautiful Barnes & Noble edition books. I absolutely love them. Same with right under them. moving across, I have this really cool book that has some cool bookish content in it, like some things you should read. Yeah, just some best books over the last century or so. These are more classics that kind of match or came in sets that I've had. Same with up top, these are special editions. I can't remember what editions the Wordworth Classics, that's what these are. And so all the spines are very, you know, mute and neutral and aesthetically pleasing. So I do have those. I kept all my Fyodor Dostoevsky books together. I hope I'm saying his name right, because honestly I feel like I say it right, but I don't actually know. This shelf is more classics. This is more of my hodgepodgey classics. It kind of looks like a funky shelf. I kind of love it though with all the random colors. I've read a couple of these. Down below is more Barnes & Noble classics and just a couple other ones that I felt went well together. We go up to the last corner. I of course have my Edgar Allan Poe pop. Edgar Allan Poe is my man. Him and Shakespeare are some of my favorite classic writers of all time. I just love Poe so much. I feel like he was just a crazy guy. If there was one person I could bring back from history to have a conversation and a cup of tea or coffee with, it would be Edgar Allan Poe. I think he's amazing. But here's some of my mass market classics. And then down underneath is my poetry shelf. I don't read a lot of poetry. I do have my classic Shel Silverstein books, a couple collections, and then I do love Courtney Peppernell. She writes really beautiful poetry, very inspiring. I actually annotate my poetry, so I don't let people borrow my poetry books, especially after I've read them, because I do write and highlight and tab them, and that's more personal. It's more of a journaling, healing thing for me. Behind this one is actually my airbrush compressor, so there's not books on the other side of this one, but we'll go ahead and move to the other side so you guys can see what's behind all these books. Alright, moving to this side, you can now see that whole corner. I had to turn on the light because it is dark over there. But we have the other side of this shelf. I already told you guys what's on top, so we'll start back here. I told you this is my airbrush compressor. This is my travel makeup case, so that kind of stays in the corner there. Over here, I have more of my science reference books. This is all nonfiction on this side for the most part. So these are some of my big reference books. These are more of my ocean science books that I have read. I've read quite a few of these. I absolutely love Sex and the Sea. Ocean I read this year, and it is one of my favorite books I've ever read in my whole life. Love it. So good. Even if you're not a science person, I highly recommend it. David Attenborough wrote it, and it's just stunning. Of course, gotta have some seashells. This has some gappage room because I do have a couple guidebooks that I use at work for identifying things, so those stay in my work bag, but when I'm not using them, they're usually up here on this shelf. These are just more guidebooks. Now over here is more science books that I would love to read. Some of these I've only read, I think, maybe one or two on this shelf. These are sciencey books, and then we get to a little bit of more like biography, wilderness type books. Moving down, we have a little bit more science, and then it gets into some random nonfiction, just some random topics, some writing books, because I used to be an English major, so I did always love writing. And then down here is also, this is more of my psychology, self-help, and biography type books or autobiography books. So that's that. And then the last cube on this shelf is my manga. My manga really consists of one Junji Ito, the first volume of Plunderer, which my brother had recommended and I still have not read. I need to read it so I can probably just get it off my shelves. I'm not a big fan of collecting manga. Manga series are super long and they're expensive for how quick they are to read, but I do own all 20 volumes of The Promised Neverland, my favorite manga series I have read and completed. The anime is terrible. If you want good, fun, fantasy, horror, manga, definitely read it. Don't watch it. It got really bad. But that completes basically this whole side of my library. Now I can't show you under my desk. Well, up here I do have some Spanish guidebooks and some writing things up there. But for the most part, I just have some textbooks down here. And then I have this shelf under my window. I have Little Hobbit, some cute stuffies, and then I have some fantasy mass markets that I will go ahead and show you guys. So starting from the first corner, I have the True Blood series, the Sookie Stackhouse books. Those of you that have watched that show, it's awesome. So I have collected most of the books. Moving down, I just have some random series that I have been collecting. Here's 3 different series right here. A lot of my mass market fantasies are kind of random or older books that I don't feel like I ever see people talk about or discuss on any kind of book channel. So these are just some more random ones I have. I think some of these are either book ones or standalones. These are just some of my big ones. C.S. Friedman, Tad Williams. I do own the book one for the Chorus of Dragons series. I do have the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. I consider that more of a fantasy sci-fi, so that is with my fantasy stuff. And I have the first couple books of Malazan, Book of the Fallen. Along the side here, I do have 4 others of his. They're just really chunky, so they fit fine there instead of taking up so much shelf space. Over here, I have some more random books. Again, I've never really heard anyone talk about much. And then down below, maybe you guys have heard of more of these books. I can move this chair so there's no shadow. There you can see it better. I moved the chair. It was blocking. But these are more popular, I think, series. I have Ursula Le Guin's Earthsea, the first 3 books in that series. Now, I do have books behind all of these, so let me move them all and we can talk about what's behind these. Removing that front of all of these, I think my plan for these 2 shelves was mostly like supernatural romance type books. That's why I had the Sookie Stackhouse books here. Behind here is Kelly Armstrong's really popular series, Women of the Otherworld, so I have some of the books for that series. And then I do have some Karen Marie Moning books, some Anne Bishop, Christina Dodd. She has a more paranormal romance, supernatural romance series. So these are kind of that. Down below are a couple series I have here. I have the entire 5 books in the Fortress series. I have Circle at Center as a trilogy I just thought sounded really cool. They also have stunning classic fantasy covers. I just am obsessed with old fantasy books. And then I just have another series I think I started collecting because of a book sale. Hopefully I'll one day read them, but for now they're just back there. It's a Vampire Earth series. Yeah. Moving on, I know there's a lot of hate towards him right now, but I do own a couple Neil Gaiman books. These are just a couple more popular books, I guess. But yeah, I have those. Moving up, I have some Russell Kirkpatrick. 2 of his series I've started. So I do have a couple books for that. I do also have books back here, again, some random ones I've never personally heard people talk about before. And then down here, there are more series. Again, there's 2 trilogies and another series I actually have heard someone talk about before. But yeah, that is what is on these shelves. Now I'm going to put all these books back. There is the doggo, and we'll get moving on. Alright guys, that completes this shelf. I just moved my chair out of the way because now we're going to start on this shelf, but I'm going to start down at the bottom because they are also double stacked. These are more of my fantasy mass market books, so we're going to go ahead and start with the very bottom. Now, on the very bottom here, I have some Orson Scott Card books. This is his Earth series. I do have the Game of Thrones books, don't know if I'll ever read them, and then I have this series by Harry Turtledove. I just loved the covers, and so I do eventually want to get to them. On the shelf above, I just have these cute little, like, concrete animal fake succulents. I just think they're adorable. Found them at thrift stores. Here, I have The Name of the Wind. I do have a couple. I have the series by Juliette Marillier, and then I do have most of the Redwall books. So that is what's here. And then up top of that, I have Brandon Sanderson novels, I have all of Robin Hobb, and I think there's more behind here. So let me remove all of the books in front and I'll show you what's behind these 3 shelves. Now removing all of the books in front, starting at the bottom, I have a Tad Williams Quartet series, and then I do have an entire Terry Goodkind series. I've never read either one of these authors, but I know they are kind of cult classics in the world of fantasy, so I do eventually want to get to them. Moving up, I have some more popular books. The Dragonbone Chair by Tad Williams, that series I've heard is pretty popular. I do have the Liza Locke Lamora, and then I have a lot of the Dresden Files books by Jim Butcher I'm very excited to get to. So that is what's behind here, some of the big, more well-known series. And then this shelf in front was Brandon Sanderson, and in front was also Robin Hobb, and the back is also Brandon Sanderson and Robin Hobb. So I do own the first 4 books in the Stormlight Archives, and I do own every single Robin Hobb book in that big world, so that is what's on this shelf. Alright, that finishes all of my mass market fantasies. I think these are all adult fantasies, so continuing with some more adult fantasy real quick. I have this shelf. This shelf used to be double stacked. All of these shelves used to be, but that is the last double road bookshelf that I have. That is so exciting. I actually have room to display most of my books. So these are just some random adult fantasy books I have, a couple series, just a couple random ones. Moving up are some hardcovers. I of course have my Fourth Wing series. As much as I hated Onyx Storm, I still am looking forward to more books in the series, so I have them here. Just a couple other random hardcovers. And then this starts my dragon collection. Those of you that don't know, I love dragons. I have been collecting these specific dragon figures for a few years now, so this is the start of that. If we move up, we're going to start moving into young adult. So, starting with some young adult fantasy now. This is the Last Apprentice series. I finally found the original covers, not omnibus versions, which is exciting. I do have the Shadow and Bone trilogy, Six of Crows duet, you know, a couple other random ones. Moving up, you will see one of my bigger dragon collections in a cobweb apparently, but I do have the Aragorn books. I do have these other dragon books. These are omnibus, so there's multiple books in there. And then I have the Belgariad series. This is actually the series my boyfriend is named after, Garion, so very cool. And then Libba Bray. Have never read the Diviner series, but do want to eventually. Now, my young adult does go on top of this shelf as well. These are just some more popular series I've heard of. The Cruel Prince trilogy. I read The Cruel Prince years ago and I did not like it, but we'll see. And then just some more, another dragon statue. All of these you can actually put batteries in and they can light up. I just don't, but I love this one, very cool. And then more books back here. Now I do have to get up on this landing here so that I can reach and show you guys the rest. But basically, it's all adult mass markets, a couple adult books here, and then my young adult fantasy goes from here to about the corner here. So I'll go ahead and show you guys that real quick. Alright, so continuing up top now, we have more young adult fantasy. I'm obsessed with Jim Henson, The Dark Crystal, The Labyrinth. Okay, I'm such a fan for him. But behind that, I have a couple series that are more popular, a couple duets and things like that. I loved the Half Bad trilogy growing up. I remember pre-ordering those books, probably the first series that ever got me hype. Then we just have some more popular series. Of course, Cassandra Clare's World of Shadowhunters. I have quite a few of her different series. I have not read them still, which is crazy. Of course, I just said I love Jim Henson, so I do have a couple characters from that TV show that came out. Another one of my dragon figures. This one's really cool, and again, they all do light up. I just don't have batteries in them, but he's kind of like on an egg. I love these figures so much. But behind that are some more popular series I've heard of. The Fireborn and the Graceling series I've heard good things about. Behind that, or next to it, these are just more random books I've never really heard people talk about, or I have V.E. Schwab, of course, I've heard everyone talk about. I have yet to read any of her books. And then if we keep moving on along the top, we'll just do it that way. I have some more random books. Legendborn, heard great things about. I remember when this book came out and no one talks about it, so I don't know if it's good or bad. I guess I'll find out one day. But if I just keep going along here, I have my little labyrinth shrine here, alright? So I actually made this just a little worm in the labyrinth with the eyeball lichen and stuff like that. I do own this trilogy. Of course, I own the novelization of the labyrinth, and I have my little worm pin. But behind that are just some more random books I've never heard anyone talk about, but they thought they sounded good at one point in my life, I guess. And then this is the transition into middle grade fantasy, which we can go ahead and just finish so that I can get off of up here. Did also make this little worm, but if we keep moving on, these are middle grade fantasy. I've heard really good things about Keepers of the Lost City. I do love a middle grade fantasy sometimes just to get you out of a slump. It's a nice easy read. Series of Unfortunate Events was really popular when I was growing up, same with The Golden Compass. So I would like to read all of these. I'm currently reading book 1 in this series, Gregor the Overlander. Fablehaven, probably the first series other than the Half Bad trilogy that got me into reading. It's so good. Then we have another one of my dragon statues. This is probably my newest one, I believe. It's just beautiful. I love these guys so much. And behind there, what better way to put, you know, more dragon books. So I have 2 different popular dragon series and a couple other random ones up there. If we keep sliding over, I have some more middle grade books I've heard good things about. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say. And then I have all of the Percy Jackson World books, so all 3 of the series. Never read them growing up. They were always checked out at the library, so I do eventually want to read them all. And then of course, Aang from Avatar, classic. Everyone loves that, even as an adult. Now that kind of finishes up this top shelf here, and we're gonna get back to adult fantasy now. So moving back down from up there and off of this weird landing here, I'm on normal ground again. This is my Legend of Drizzt shrine. Now I own over 40 books in this series. I'm only missing 1, I believe. I have a small D&D Drizzt figure. Of course, Drizzt and Guinevere, the pop figures. I was going to sell this, and then I realized it's actually a first edition, so I have it on a little book stand. I of course have my, the dictionary for Drizzt, and then behind is just, again, more Drizzt books. I do have a couple other R.A. Salvatore books that aren't part of the Forgotten Realms series, but for the most part, this is all Drizzt. I do also have a Magic the Gathering card of Drizzt. In the corner is my Harry Potter transition, so a lot of my Harry Potter Funko Pops. Probably will never get rid of them, love them. Have the whole series, some more cutie stuff. And then we have all of my Lord of the Rings books, so all of my David Day drawings that kind of go into, like, there's the dictionary, the atlas, the heroes of Tolkien, Dark Powers, Battles, Hobbits. I have, of course, some of the classic Tolkiens. I have this cute little mini binding of The Hobbit and all that. I think actually behind that, I don't feel like moving it, I have the original Hobbit paperback. Mine's really torn up. I did get this pin for my birthday, have the Lord of the Rings series, and then I have some really cute Lord of the Rings pops, some mini guys. Super fun, right? So we'll go ahead and go back to the shelves now before I move on. So starting on the top here, this is a lot of popular authors that I want to read. So I have a lot of John Gwen books, and then just some other bigger paperbacks. Another dragon statue. I love this one. I think it's cute. I love them all though, honestly. But yeah, moving down are more popular series or authors. I have the first 3 books in the Wheel of Time series. I just have a lot. I have some James Islington. I have the 1st and 3rd book in the Licanius trilogy. I think I totally just said that wrong, but I'm getting a little tongue-tied talking so much. Anyway, and if we move down to the last shelf on here, my shadow is covering some of it, but I do have 2 Supernatural pops. That is one of my favorite TV shows growing up. Yeah, so of course I have Castiel and I have Dean, and they're worth a lot of money actually, so I don't really plan on getting rid of them. And then these are just some more random hardcovers slash series that I really want to get to. I like the way they look, so I like to kind of have them right as the first thing you look at when you come up the stairs here. Now if I move over to the shelf under my Harry Potter and Tolkien stuff, I have the Joe Abercrombie books. I do have this one as well, but then I just have some random books, you know. There's not really much to say here. These are just a lot of fantasy books. I own the First Income series, stuff like that. Moving down, this is probably more popular. I do own the Greenbone Saga. I do own Senlin Ascends, the Books of Babel series. Really excited to read one day. I do own the Raya Revelations by Michael J. Sullivan, and I own a first couple books in Brent Weeks' Lightbringer series. I have been excited to read for years. And then these are just 2 Harry Potter Funkos that aren't, of course, the creatures. Moving down again, these are, again, some more random adult fantasy books I've heard no one really talk about. I know this book right here, she is actually a fellow booktuber, so you guys should definitely check out Elliot Brooks. Now, if we move on to more of my shelves, these are like my video game books. I have all the Assassin's Creed and the Witcher books. Of course, I have some Witcher pops. Moving down, these are a more popular series. This is my queen right here. Rachel Gillig is literally one of my new favorite authors. Green Teeth was my favorite book of last year, and I do own her new book. Just some more random books here. Nydia Okorafor I've recently discovered this year and I'm also obsessed with, so really excited there. I really want to read Gideon the Ninth this year. We'll see what happens. And then we kind of get into all of my Book of the Month books. This is Rachel Gillig's new book. It's just freaking stunning, and I ate it up, so it just has to stay facing out. All her books are beautiful. But behind here is just tons of Book of the Month fantasy books. I do have a gap because I do have one that I'm currently reading. And then if we go down more, there's more here as well. These are all just Book of the Month books I've collected throughout the years. I've been a Book of the Month BFF for years now, so I own a lot of books from them. I also, you know, sometimes I find used Book of the Month books, so these are just a lot of them. Continuing on, I have my queen, my real queen, my true queen, N.K. Jemisin. Absolutely love and adore her books. Ooh, my shelves are dusty, y'all. But I'm missing one of them. My friend has it. But this is N.K. Jemisin, Little Shrine. And then I do have all my Sarah J. Maas books. These are the original ACOTAR books. Book 3 my mom actually has downstairs, but I refuse to get rid of my original copies. I did have the first 2 originals of the Throne of Glass series, and I actually sold them because I could never find any to match, so I was just like, oh well. I still need to read Throne of Glass and the Crescent City books, but I do own the new and old ACOTAR books. Moving down, I have, these are just some like collections of books, so they each have like multiple, or it's like the whole series. These are just some of my fatter fantasy books, some chunky guys, some ones shoved back in there. Nothing too crazy. I have yet to read this. It's kind of intimidating, and I've heard mixed things on it, but I love the cover because I love dragons. Moving down, I have some more random hardcovers. Not really heard many people talk about any of these books. Maybe The Sword of Shannara, because that's like a classic, so that's the original trilogy I'd like to read one day soon. Now that wraps up all my fantasies. So literally all of this, literally everything over here is fantasy. Now we're gonna get to my little bit of sci-fi, which starts on the bottom of this shelf. This is my young adult sci-fi shelf. So down here I have some books, obviously. I've read a couple of them, but I don't read young adult too much, so Yeah, these are just some of the ones I have. And then we can move on to the bottom of the next shelf, and I have more young adult books, Brandon Sanderson's Skyward series, and then we get into my adult sci-fi. So I love this cover, have yet to read the book, but I just have some random ones. Three Body Problem I really want to read soon. I did read, oh, the kitty's here. Say hey everyone. He's chilling. I did read Project Hail Mary this year and I ate it up. And I have read a Blake Crouch book. I loved it. And then just right here are a couple classics. So Handmaid's Tale, H.G. Wells, stuff like that. Moving up, I run out of room when it comes to sci-fi because I didn't give myself a lot of room for them. But I do have another Nnedi Okorafor book, love her. And this is my newest book of the month book I just got for the month of, what month are we in? May, I guess. But behind that, I have some mass market sci-fis. If we move my little Grogu guy, we got some random ones, some Jeff Vandermeer, Michael Crichton, and then we have the Dune books, of course. And then moving up again, I have, these are like my really popular sci-fi books I want to read. So I have some William Gibson books. Then these are just some sci-fi books I really want to get to. This is my Last Dragon. This is very like steampunk sci-fi, so I love this guy right here. But I have a couple sci-fi series. And then I have Adrian, and I always mess up his last name, but I have quite a few of his books as well. So that finishes up the top of this shelf. Now on the very top is my Expanse series and my Red Rising series. I am missing one book in that series, but that is my library, you guys. It is a lot. It is a lot. My cat is dropping things because he is crazy. Alright everyone, so that kind of wraps up my library tour video, the updated version, because like I said, a lot has changed in the last year. I have unhauled a lot of books, I have bought an absurd amount of books, and I've also gotten a bunch of new shelves. So, you know, the organization and the actual books on my shelves has changed a lot in the last year. So thank you guys so much if you've gotten this far in the video. Please leave a comment, like, and subscribe if you were into this, if you want to hear me talk more about books. Hopefully I'll be reading a lot more, and I'll have some more fun ideas soon. And yeah, I know these are just my favorite videos to watch and film. I love looking at other people's bookshelves, and so I really appreciate you guys watching this because I love talking about my books and showing off my shelves. This is years and years and years of work and, you know, buying books, so I'm very proud of the shelves that I have. So being able to show them off just makes me so happy. And yeah, like I said, if you have gotten this far, please comment. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys maybe got some ideas of how to organize your books. Maybe you have some ideas of some books you want to pick up and read, but definitely stick around if you'd like to hear more about some books that I have been reading. I definitely plan on uploading another video soon, and I love you all, and I will talk to you all again very, very shortly.